Welcome to Marketing Number One. And as you know, we have been talking a lot about branding. We went through that whole series. And what's really interesting about this is where most people get around, they start with a graphic designer and they start doing logos and slogans. And as you can see on this list, to create the look and feel your brand is number 9 of 13 steps. So once you have found your unique selling proposition, what sets you apart from everyone else, which is what branding is, then what you have to do is say, now, what's it look like? What's it feel like? And this is where the brand style guide comes into play. So it is right there. And then, by the way, if you're just embarking on your branding effort and you're ready to start creating your brand graphics, which would be your logo, the look and feel of the brand, what you're about to see, all of those things, what I would like you to do is watch this video that's in the vault, the ultimate guide to logos and slogans. So where we're going today assumes that you already have your logo designed, you have your slogan or tagline designed, you kind of know, you do know what your brand is and how you're going to market it. And just as a quick refresher, your brand is what sets you apart. Your unique selling proposition, it's the perception people have of you. Your brand mark is your logo. Your tagline, sometimes people call them strap lines, slogans, but it's the exclamation point you put after your logo. And then there's messaging. What do you want to get across to people? So getting all that out of the way, let's dig in. This is why a brand style guide is really, really important. And that's because you'll be far more effective as one loud voice as opposed to separate small voices. I mean, can you versus a solo singer versus the whole choir? As a matter of fact, to win, you need everybody on the same page singing out of the same hymnal. And you've seen me show this over and over and over again. But typically what happens is every local organization is doing their own thing, but you need to get them all on that same page. And that includes your city, your town, the county, the actual municipality, your chamber of commerce, economic development, community development, which is quality of life, tourism, your downtowns, your arts, cultural organizations, they all need to be singing out of the same hymnal. And when you do that, you win. And by the way, this is where the brand style guide comes into play and why it is so important. Now, the purpose of this is to create continuity because all those organizations I just listed, they're all, marketing. They're marketing the community that you live in. And so we need continuity in that marketing. We need familiarity. The more people see the same look and feel, the more familiar they get with you. It creates top of mind awareness, what they call TOMA. And you create a common perception, what you want people to think of you. And it will promote your unique selling proposition. So your brand style guide will give you, what does your brochures look like? Like this is for the Allegheny National Forest. Notice there's similarities in all their marketing pieces. And this is all where a brand style guide comes into play. So now, what is a brand style guide? Well, this is where you create the look and feel of your brand. It includes the messaging and it includes the guidelines for all your partners. So they're all working from this. So you have some continuity. And it includes photography, your messaging, your everything. And so in this case, I want to show you, I'm going to walk you through a brand style guide. And this one is for Tinley Park, a beautiful community just south of Chicago in Illinois. This is what they did. Theirs is a music thing. Now, I'm not telling you all to go with music. That's theirs. They own this and they own the copyright to this brand. But this is going to be their style guide. So you can see how one is laid out. As a matter of fact, accompanying this video is the Tinley Guide style guide. So you could download it and say, oh, we need to pattern ours after this. I don't mean to take their brand, but just pattern how you do your style guide, your brand along this format. So it always starts with the cover here. This is where it is. This is what they're doing. There's always an introduction to it. And then, of course, there's always a table of contents. You see, we talked about the logo, the color palette, typography, graphic elements that are used, business papers, which is your business cards, letterhead, envelope, those types of things, digital applications, which is critical these days, and then marketing design concepts. And so this is pretty good, a pretty good example of what you can follow. When we talk about the logo, this is what they did. And I'm not asking you to critique their logo or anything, but this is where they're going. And they talk about how they use their logo, how much space should be around it in every application, how it could be used in reversed with blue in the background or reversed with black in the background, in single color, black and white versus full color. I mean, this is all these elements because you don't want any confusion and you need familiarity, you need continuity, so that it doesn't go sideways on you. Even when it comes to their tagline, life amplified, and then they'll even include how you shouldn't use your logo, what you don't want to do. And that, once again, you don't want people taking liberties because you'll lose its continuity. And so these are all the elements that are involved with the logo for Tinley Park. Now, here's why it's really important to have a style guide. You can see the Tinley Park Chamber of Commerce logo doesn't have to look exactly like the city's logo. Everybody doesn't have to have the same logo, but they should have the same color schemes. They should have similarity in there. So even when it's on the side of a police car or a fire truck or the administration or finance or anybody who has business cards, can use the same logo or variations of it. And if they have a convention, a visitors bureau, it doesn't have to be the same. It could be. But once again, this is why it's so important. So that was the section about the logo. And then the second one was about color palettes. Well, what are the colors that we're using to promote this brand? And this gives you all of that information. Once again, it's all about continuity. So in this case, this is their color palette they use for their logo, for their ad concepts, everything. Then we get into the typography. And that is, what font are we using? And with branding, with your websites and everything, the last thing you want to do is use a whole bunch of different fonts. You should have one or two. So they show you here, these are the fonts you use in your body text, the main marketing messages, in everything that you do. And so this is all about the typography. Once again, this is about getting everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction. And as part of this is your messaging. What are you going to say in your headlines, in your key marketing messages? And you'll be able to read through this if you download the Tinley Park Style Guide and see what the stories are that they're sharing and how their messaging works. And then beyond the messaging, of course, then there's the photography. You want a certain look and feel. And for them, it is about music. It's geared to younger. It's really geared to millennials and young families. And so you'll see a lot of that in the type of photography that they're using in Tinley Park when they do their marketing. And then the next section of this are the graphic elements. You'll see right now, you see the wavy notes there. I'm going to show you some concepts where you put all these pieces together here. But you can see all these the funky music graphics down the bottom right corner and how they use these graphic elements to tie the pieces together. And then you'll get into the business papers. These are what would a letterhead look like for the city of Tinley Park. And you could do a similar one, for the Chamber of Commerce or tourism or any other association that they might have. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but it should follow the color palettes and the overall writing theme. And so there you can see it even in business cards. This is the print on both sides with life amplified on the back side. Pretty cool. Love their brand. And then you get into the digital applications. Well, what does their website look like? And they are actually using this. It looks really great. but it's all about Life Amplified. And so we get into, what does your website look like? What do your individual pages look like? What's it look like on a phone? If you're ever going to do an app for the city, online banner ad concepts, all of this all needs to be identified up front. This is what's so great about a brand style guide. A lot of times people just say, where's the style guide? They drop the word brand, but it's all part of this process. And so here you can see, even for like PowerPoint or Keynote presentations, it should even have a similar look. So when they go talk to local Kiwanis and the city council and everything, promoting their brand to get local buy-in and ownership of it, it even gives you those for guidelines. Even newsletter templates. This way, there's no question unanswered. And then finally, we get into how do you put all these pieces together? And these are full design concepts. So they're just concepts. But you see here, if these were full page ads, and granted, most people do half page ads, third page ads, but at least it gives you some idea of how it all fits together. You can see the wavy notes below the photographs. You can see their headline. Our playgrounds are a little different. It's all about music. You can see, how they do all of these, where they place their logo and what it looks like, the backgrounds. And so there's all these concepts that they can use so they get the look and feel of the brand, and that it goes across to arts and other organizations. And so here you can see these are brand posters. You might want to put posters all over town so that people locally know that you're about music. In the case of Tinley Park, they can do some really cool things too. And these are all parts of this and seeing how this all works. And then their brochures, like promoting the very best at Tinley Park, would be high notes, or guide to event production in Tinley Park, which is something they really want to promote. And so once again, you can see all of these elements already with concepts there. And they might not look exactly like this, but at least they have these guidelines to follow. So there's the community profile and opportunities brochure, which gives you business opportunities in Tinley Park. It's part of economic development. Even gets down to pole banners that you might have on downtown. And they could use all of these. They could use one of them. They might do Tinley Park, the middle left one on one side, and on the other side of the pole, do any one of the other ones. Probably one with a musical note or something that doesn't have Tinley Park on it. You could even get as crazy as your vehicles doing vehicle wraps. They went quite musical here, and they may tone this down a little bit, but at least they get an idea of what you can do to really promote your brand. We even get into wayfinding signs. Notice the wayfinding sign looks like the neck of a guitar with the frets on it, or with the tuning forks on it. And so once again, there's an information kiosk there. They might even have a welcome sign that looks like a big guitar. So these are all part of the brand. And now you're seeing it in actual use as concepts, and here we go. These are standard flag concepts for, downtown or for events where they put up additional flags, not just pole banners. And it even gets into logo gear, which could be licensed out to a local chamber of commerce or a private business to create this and sell it. But at least you have a look and feel to everything that they're doing. And then at the very end, there's use of this. If you're going to use this, you need to get permission. Now, obviously, you have your partners, economic development, tourism, downtown, the city itself, maybe an arts, cultural. But by the way, Joe's Muffler Shop can't use this. This is for public sector marketing of the town. But if somebody was doing a conference there and they wanted to promote Tinley Park using its brand style guide, then they would agree that they're using these, and it gives them what they're signing up for, that they can't change anything. And so that is what you've seen is a brand style guide. It is critically important because it will get everybody on the same page, singing out of the same hymnal, and that creates continuity and that sticks. And by the way, your brand style guide you might do a refresh every 5 years, but a brand style guide can last 20 years, 25 5 years. You don't go around changing. We want to be familiar. We're familiar with Apple's logo or Google's logo. We're very familiar with that. And you don't take liberty and start changing things. Now, to close out this, how much does a style guide cost? Well, typically they go between $12,000 to $25,000. I think the median price to have this done is about $15,000. And then who would do this kind of work? Who do you hire? Well, let's get into that. The expertise we want is probably an ad agency that understands advertising, print, digital, you name it, billboards, you name it. Somebody that has expertise in branding, and we're talking about your brand mark, your logo, graphic design. They need to know social media, public relations, and they also need to know copyright. Remember, the messaging that you say, the words that you put in everything are just as important as the graphic design. So get any kind of agency that has this expertise, and there's some great ones out there that you can use to do this. So now that you have your brand direction and you know what the look and feel your brand is through this process, that brings us to the second video in this series, how you should allocate your marketing dollars.